Not in the packet, we don't have our little folder. It's a new one.
Waiting for
We
Troy.
even have to take more,
have a packet.
we even have to take more, courses.
We're creatures of.
They're keeping us in line.
Right. Reaching my way to, Elk Drive.
Uh-oh.
Love it. Are we
Get
ready?
that nice parking space?
Yes, thank you. Thank you to Commissioner Lyons for my nice parking space.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Basil, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline.
Here.
Commissioner Lyons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
So you can see.
Town manager, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're going to change up the agenda slightly. And now that we've done roll call, what we'd like to do is do the reorganization of the town commission at this point in time. And then the swearing in of our new police chief.
Okay, very good. Appoint mayor and vice mayor. Turn that over to the commission.
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Scott Morgan as our mayor.
I'll second.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Fine.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Vice Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
please.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Vice Mayor, Commissioner Tom Stanley to be the vice mayor.
I'll second.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting on March 10th. I'm sorry. You have
I
something
think
else?
we'd like to
Swearing in.
swear
Oh, I'm
in
sorry.
Good to
Yes,
swear in
indeed.
the police chief.
police chief,
So,
Mr. Richard Jones.
Thank you.
I, Richard Jones,
I, Richard
a
Jones,
citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
of the Chief of Police for the town of Gulfstream, Florida,
of the Chief of Police for the town of Gulfstream, Florida,
on which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
on which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
You're in.
Thank you.
Yay.
welcome to the town of Gulfstream,
Thank you.
Chief. And let it be noted that transitions were very smooth because we have on his retirement, former Chief Allen here. So welcome, Chief. Hope you're enjoying your retirement.
Support Chief Jones here. Him and I have worked together in the past many times on issues between the town and all. I think he's been a great fit for the town and he's doing a great job.
Thank you very much. All right, now let's move on. The minutes were presented to us for our March 10th meeting. Are there any changes, comments?
Nope.
I move they be accepted as presented.
Second.
Ms. Basil.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. I think we have a few changes to the agenda in addition. to what's already been-
Yes, sir. Okay, so the reorganization of the commission was 10B. And so we're making a new 10B, and that will be the required presentation materials for levels 2 and 3 applications. and the assignment of that to the ARPB.
Very good.
Also, under 9, a town manager will have number 4, and that is grant writing opportunities.
All right. Changes are made. The next meeting will be May 12th, 2023 at 9 a.m. for the commission, if anyone wishes to attend. A public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. Garner.
It was 16 years ago today that I got up in front of this same group and discussed the founding of the Florida Coalition for Preservation. And 16 years later, the purpose then was obviously to deal with the pending takeover of Briny Breezes by a developer. And ironically, 16 years almost to the day, we're back once again. In this case, a developer has made an offer to buy Briny, and it will be considered by the Briny board in a couple of days. And then whatever they decide will be revealed to the shareholders, the residents, I believe on April 16th or 17th. And the whole reason I'm up here is to say that we, the Florida Coalition, is still in the business of trying to make sure that the changes that are inevitable to our population and to our community are done well, gracefully, and without inevitable inconvenience and other things that could happen. So we're on the case. We did send out an email just telling the truth, which was we didn't know much, but here were the facts as we knew them then. And you may have received them at your home, but it is a process, not an event. It's going to take a long time, but we would very much appreciate your cooperation with us as we move forward. That's all I have to say, but I just thought it would be better to have it on the record that we're vigilant and hopefully we will have a positive outcome at some point in time. Briny is likely to change, and we're going to work with them as friends to make sure that whatever is done fairly, and in particular is to benefit to all the communities on the barrier island, not just to the shareholders of Briny Breezes.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. This is the first time I've come to one of these meetings after being a resident for approximately 10 years. And I only have 3 minutes.
State your name for the record, please.
I could probably be here for 3 hours. My name is Ken Herzog. I'm Indigo Point. Just quickly, I just want to say that I'm concerned about the quality of life in this town that I like so much. And the main concern is 2 things I'd like to discuss today. The first is noise and dumping of waste products into the intercoastal. I've spoken to the Mayor Scott Morgan and Greg Dudnam about this in the past. The first I've become aware of it was actually August 7th of last year, when I have video recordings of actual dumpings of the golf course, which I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, where big massive truckloads of debris, concrete slabs were dumped at the dump all day long on the Sunday rather. And I didn't realize this was going on until that Sunday, because I work during the weekdays when they usually do it. It's my understanding that they had a permit, no one was able to find it in almost a year. Apparently now they found a permit, but the permit expired. They're in the process of getting another permit. And I'd like the town to just think about it. Do we want them to get another permit? Because I think they don't understand what is going on when they look from the other side of the town. If you look at their roadway along the intercoastal, there's a tremendous amount of just big slabs of debris. And it looks really hideous from the other side, looking at it from the west to the east. When they do dump, they seem to dump in a fashion that they dump and they run in a hurry so that no one sees it. So they're trying to hide, and it shows that in the video. And I'll be glad to show that to Scott. And I already sent it to Greg. I'm not sure if Greg.
So, I'm sorry, I haven't, that time hearing, so I haven't, we go a little slower for.
Maybe slow down and just speak closer to the microphone.
Closer to it? Okay.
We
I
can
have
hear
3
you.
minutes, so I just wanted to get as much in as
Right.
possible. Sorry. But the quality of life, that I know that the intercoastal is not under the jurisdiction of the town, but the property adjacent to the intercoastal is. And I'm not sure what the town can do about it, if the town wants to do anything about it. But there is no permit right now, and they are still dumping. If you were to go on the west side of the intercoastal and look east, you'll see big areas of white concrete that hasn't been affected by the water washing over it yet. It hasn't turned green like the rest, like the older ones, and they're still dumping, and they total disregard for what's going on. They're actually dumping into the mangroves. Each time they dump, there's a big cloud of dust that comes across the way because the wind blows, usually from the offshore.
If
So
we have
that's,
information for you, Mr. Dunham will respond.
so this,
So move to your second point, please.
well, I didn't finish with the first. I do have videos, and I think I sent it to you, Greg. I'm not sure. August 7th, I sent it to you last year, and I'll be glad to give it to you again. Anyone who's interested in it. I don't know if anything can be done, if anyone's even interested, but I am, and people on the other side are, and it looks really bad from the other side. If we had a bunch of junk thrown on the east side and on the west side, rather than you looking at it from the other side, you'd see what I'm talking about. You're all invited to my backyard to see it. I'll be glad to entertain you and show you what's going on and show you all the videos. The second thing is noise. There's an ordinance that I looked up, which is 22-71, which says basically you can't produce noise in the middle of the night and from dawn to dusk. And by noise, I mean it's constant mowing in the dark, total darkness of night with headlights on, several vehicles going back and forth over the golf course. Mowing and blowing, I believe. I believe the golf course, they blow the dew off the grass in the morning to keep it dry. I actually own a golf course, and so I sympathize with them a little bit, but it's a horrible noise. It's almost like being in bed with a drone hovering over your bed, even with impact glass surrounding you. I can't even open up my doors at night in the wintertime anymore, which I used to like to do. And it's a horrible noise. And again, if you were to look and you to see these headlights going back and forth constantly. Well, I don't know the exact times, but I think it starts somewhere around 6 in the morning and continues until sunrise. There's a bunch of other things I'd like to talk about, and I'll say that for another meeting. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Herzog. This is 2 points that you have brought up to me several times. We've discussed it. I've met with staff and we've looked into it, so I'll have Mr. Dunham respond.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a number of times, but I met with the golf course as recently as yesterday and asked about the mowing and the concrete. My understanding from the golf course is that they never mow in the middle of the night.
Well, it might not be mowing, it might be just the blowing of the dew. But I have videos again of
Okay,
headlights
so-
at night. So whatever they're doing, it sounds like mowing, but
Right.
it's.
Are you talking about like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning?
No, I'm talking about at least from 6 on,
Okay,
probably earlier.
okay, that's really the only time, as explained to me, that the golf course, I've never been a golf course maintenance person, that they can run the mowers safely. They can't do it in the middle of the night. I was under the impression you were talking about at 8 p.m., 10, 11, 12 o'clock p.m. Or a.m. And so they are not doing that, and you've verified that for me. So it is in the morning, and we do say dawn to dusk. The literal definition of dawn is the first light, even before sunlight.
Mhm.
And so I will work with because apparently that's really the only time that they can, mow and do maintenance safely. You own a golf course,
I
when
don't know what you mean by safely, but
safely is, and not, disturbing the play, the golf play. So, I don't know, you told me that you own a golf course, so I'm sure that you have some experience in maintaining a golf course,
Mhm.
an active golf course while golfers are golfing, correct? I mean, I
This
will
goes-
talk to you about it.
Greg, this goes
later.
on almost 7 days a week, every day, month after month after month. This
Okay,
is
so
not like, it's almost
they have a
including
process.
weekends.
Okay, they have a process of mowing the golf course. And some of it is 2 or 3 days a week, some of it is every day a week. But I will work with them to see if there are ways that they can, stay further off of
Well,
the.
there is a
So
code,
can I
and
go
once you
to the
start,
second point,
once you
please?
start making exceptions, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, we
So-
normally don't do this with public comment, but I thought it was, normally it's a comment, we don't respond.
Oh, sorry.
It has to go on the agenda, but we're going to make an exception because you brought this up several times and we thought it was something that needed to be looked into. And I think you deserve an explanation. So that's why we're doing it.
So with respect to the concrete, I'm just going to make a statement based on my conversations yesterday with the golf course. The placement of concrete materials is not the dumping of waste materials. I mean, the golf course doesn't have regular construction going on where they have concrete waste and are finding a place to dump it as waste material.
Mhm.
Rather, it is a preventative measure to reinforce the course's shoreline against erosion. Now, this method, I've been told by them, follows rules established by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And so that's my job, is I'm going to follow up on that. They have a coastal engineer who works with the DEP. So I have names of people and the DEP, while that's a large organization and it's difficult to navigate sometimes on the computer, but I can navigate through that. But I'm going to follow up on that to make sure that is the reason that they are putting this concrete in there, which seems logical to me, and that it meets the DEP requirements. So
Their explanations make sense. However, you raise legitimate complaints and we will look into it. We will follow up with the golf club, as Mr. Dunham said, with respect to the dumping. It makes sense as to why they would occasionally need to do that, but we will confirm that for you. As far as the mowing, we will reiterate to them that it is dawn to dusk, and I would expect them to abide by that and not be mowing prior to dawn or after dusk. I think that's about it. We have to move on, Mr. Herzog, but thank you for coming in, and I will get back to you. Always do. All right, let's move on to the public hearing part. We have 2 applications, Blue Water Cove and what was Lemon Hill. Are there any ex parte communications to be announced? No?
But on the Lemon Hill application, I'm going to recuse myself when we get to that point, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor will recuse on.
And I will also have to recuse myself on Lemon Hill.
Okay. Narrowing it down to a bare point.
Joe, you're still in, right?
Yeah.
Anyone who's going to speak on either of these applications, please stand and be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, let's move on. Blue Water Cove. I think Mr. Glickstein is here.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Greg, Trey, Renee, Carrie Glickstein for Blue Water Cove Gulfstream. Here today for a replat of the 2 intercoastal lots in the development. You may recall the conceptual site plan for this project depicted a small waterfront platform. The plat for the project provided an access track to that platform this commission disapproved the application for that platform. Consequently, the access track is no longer needed. So this replat takes the area that access track occupied, which essentially is 20 feet wide by the length of those lots, and aggregated it to each lot. So the lot 7 and lot 8 picked up 10 feet in width respectively. That's the gist of the change to the plat. I know there was a comment at the ARPB. I forget if it was a public comment or one of the board members brought up a concern. Does the aggregation create a larger lot that would be disproportionate to what is consistent with Gulfstream intercoastal lots? And the answer to that is it is entirely consistent. In fact, even with the aggregated land, the lots are still smaller than intercoastal lots in Plaza Soleil. Any questions? I'm here to address those.
I had an opportunity to listen to the video, watch the video, I should say, too. So you covered it very completely, so I'm fine with it.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Questions?
and then obviously you're reserving the 10-foot drainage easement 5 and 5 for that part of the outfall. Again, it's been a little while since we looked at it.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Staff's comments?
Just what was reflected in the staff report about what Mr. Glickstein testified today about what happened at the hearing.
Very good. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the combining of lots 7 and 8 with a common property line, eliminating tract D and retaining a 10-foot wide drainage easement.
Second?
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Let's move on then to the Musselman property, 1200 North Ocean Boulevard.
Good morning, commission members and town staff. My name is Jacob LaPera with LaParadise Building Development. Our firm represents the owners of 1200 North Ocean Boulevard, also known as Lemon Hill. Today, we will be presenting the comprehensive restoration and renovation plan that received unanimous approval by the ARPB. The owners are very passionate about preservation and are excited to revive the architecture and design elements originally imagined by Marion Sims' wife. To preface our presentation, I'd like to affirm a few items for the record. First, our application presented today has omitted the sports court in order to further study. We are not seeking approval of this item today. Second, the owners and I have been in communication with Mrs. Lisa Morgan solely at 1140 North Ocean and have made a commitment to jointly design and execute a supplemental plan for the property line buffering. Lastly, our presentation includes an enhanced study of the right-of-way landscape and identifies our previously recorded intentions during the ARPB meeting to thoughtfully clean and improve this area. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Austin Musselman, the property owner, along with our team, Historical Concepts, Weezy McLean, Hooten Land Design, and Environment Design Group.
Hello, Commission, Mr. Mayor. I've had the pleasure of meeting several of you, and so several of you are neighbors and very close to the property, and thank everyone for their time today. I just wanted to introduce myself. My family has been coming here since the 30s. My grandparents came down a long time ago, and we still have a lot of cousins and families in the area. Many of you know them, and we've just always had a commitment to historic preservation and to the area, to conservation, and have made a lot of initiatives in the area to protect land and to restore historic properties. And that's our intention to do here with Lemon Hill. Very excited to have the opportunity on this project, and just very committed to do it right and properly and abide by all the rules and regulations. The team that we're working with, Historical Concepts and the local
landscape architects and Don Hooten and our interior decorator, we've all had experience working together on projects in Kentucky with similar components with historical properties and whatnot. So I feel very good about our team and very excited to be a part of the community and take on this project. And thank you for your time and your considerations. So.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dominic Trishita. I'm an architect with Historical Concepts, working on the team, as Austin and Jacob mentioned. Yeah, I think they both outline really the goals of the project is to kind of bring back and restore the history of the project with the Marion Sims Wyeth design, bringing that back and doing some conservative additions to the project that bring it to sort of 21st century living. I'll quickly just kind of orient you to, I think there's a couple pages in our presentation, Renee, that I can walk you through. Hopefully that will give you the understanding of what we're proposing to do to the building. And then I'll turn it over to the landscape folks who can speak more clearly about the plantings and screenings on the property. So if I think quickly we go to keep forwarding, that's the existing kind of structure as it sits now. This, yeah, right here. The above the two images on the top illustrate the house as it stands now with the red areas, which we are proposing to remove from the property. And you can see on the top right, those areas primarily are 1950s additions that were added to the home that were not quite up to the character of the original Wyeth design, and we're proposing to remove those. And the blue on the bottom are the interventions and new additions to the home that we're proposing. And you can see on the bottom left, the front of the house is we're adding a second story to the left side and a small addition off further to the left, and a few new dormers on the roof line to help kind of balance that existing lone dormer that you see on the top image. The image on the right kind of replaces a lot of that 50s addition. You can see that's sort of a little bit more of a generous living room on the back of the property and some family spaces and loggia. We are adding a pergola adjacent to a pool that is existing and rebuilding the porch on the guest house. The one special exception that we've made a request for is the amount of eave lines on the property. I think 4 is the requirement here, and the actual existing property is non-conforming. It's 6 different eave lines on the property, and just kind of the nature of the house and the scale of the house, that's pretty typical. And we're actually proposing to expand that by 2 more additional eaves, and that's really to, make the garage, keep the existing massing of the garage, but add a portion to that to allow today's vehicles to fit inside the garage, because they don't as it stands now. But that's at a lower grade, so that required a little bump out onto the garage, which is a new eave. And then we also added that family room in place of the older addition that was there. And that, just to kind of balance the mass on the back of the house, we raised that eave up. But we feel like the character is in spirit with the original character of Wyeth's construction, and feel that that's appropriate. So with that, I'll open up to any questions that you all may have, or pass it on to the landscape folks.
Any questions on the house design?
Nope. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Donald Hooten. I'm a landscape architect, and I've been very pleased to be able to work in proposing designs for the enhancement of this property, and we're very excited about the direction in which we're headed. The whole idea is to, again, preserve and enhance, and I think in our efforts to do so, we're also want to respect the integrity of the property and respect our neighbors as well. So part of the respect for the surrounding properties will be to provide a extensive screening that will, again, shelter inward and outward the views for the property. And in a minute, I'll ask my colleagues to address the specifics of planting on how that will be achieved. But in development of the property, we're proposing to preserve the existing circulation patterns. There is an entry from the east and then entry from the west with a driveway connecting those 2 points. The eastern entry would be more of an ornamental entry with gates there. And then the western entry point would be screened off. We want to propose solid gates at that end so that the views from that end of the property are totally blocked. And our planting solutions will enhance that as well. Then the area of the property on both the east and west side, we're proposing that it be somewhat as is in essence, and less intensely developed with open lawn areas, circulation connections, and then again, enhanced buffering for the adjacent properties. Then the central core of the property is where more of the development would be. We want, in the front area, we want to preserve the walls that were part of the original architecture, so we'll maintain those. We will have to slightly adjust one end of the wall to address the new architecture, but the entry will be preserved pretty much as is. And then the main core of our development will be in the back around the pool. The pool is an element that we inherited with the purchase of the property, and so we're trying to work with it and enhance it again as we can. We are where we do have the necessities of utilities. We're proposing that all of those be screened in a combination of physical structures, fences, walls, as well as planting with that. And I think at this point, I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Dustin Mazel and Erica Gottsagen, that can address some of the specifics on planting.
Good morning, Dustin Mazel with Environment Design Group in Palm Beach. Just a couple of real things I'll touch on. We were very fortunate on the site to have some wonderful mature vegetation. So our owner's been very committed to preserving and protecting all the existing vegetation. We're even in the process right now of root pruning very nice specimen trees to move them to more appropriate places where the architecture renovations or enhancements won't affect it. So we're putting a lot of effort into preservation, relocation, protection. Really, essentially, the only thing we're removing is just tired foundation planting and any exotics or anything that don't have any historical significance. Again, the project was unanimously approved at the ARPB. There was one thing they specifically asked us to look at, that was the south buffer. There were some neighbors there that had some questions about it. So we've done a supplemental plan, which was part of the request to really show the intention of making sure that it will be completely opaque. So we have done that. I don't know if it's part of this presentation, but has been resubmitted. And then subsequently, there's been some offline conversations with my client and Jacob's team as well with the neighbor to the east. And there's been some requests about maybe beefing up that existing buffer a little bit. So our client has made the commitment with neighbor to the east to get with them, show them an enhancement plan, make sure they're 100% satisfied with what we're doing. So we're in the process of doing that, and we're committed to making sure that the neighbor to the east is happy with what we ultimately will propose there on that part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I have a few questions, so if you could just bear with me.
Yes.
On the landscaping, there was a comment in the application summary that we were given that there were the previous application, previous owner, application also approved the removal of 4 large trees that were in poor condition, replacing them with 2 gumbo trees, 11 palms. Did that ever happen? Was that going to happen?
I'm not sure about that in no particular, but the answer is we're going to significantly replace that with much more material than that.
Okay.
Much more.
Yeah.
But there were a few species that were damaged, not as a result of our work, but just in poor condition. We did a full vegetation analysis. We're removing them, but the mitigation that we're doing is significant.
You'll be addressing that spot whether or not
Yes, sir.
those, the previous owner had planned.
Right. But it'll far exceed that previous commitment.
Okay, great. I don't doubt that. Again, I tend to review the ARPB meetings, and it was very clear your commitment to the vegetation. I also drove down the road, and that canopy is great. And it's very clear that your intention is to make it even better. And there is a lot of dead wood in there for good reason, because it's so shaded. So you're going to supplement, correct?
Yes, sir. We're going to remove all the dead wood, and we're actually putting a mid understory in there. And that's what some of the neighbors had asked about. And absolutely.
Part of the reason I'm asking questions, 2 of the members can't ask questions, so.
So they give me notes, right?
No. The pool house, what do you call that structure? Is there an elevation of that? I was trying to see what it's going to look like, and is that on your border? What is that?
Pool house. There's
supplemental copies of that. So the goal for that structure is the front porch is a bit dated, just to kind of bring that back.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the building. You just bring it up to date.
That's right. The building is actually I should have mentioned that earlier, is non-conforming on the back with the setback, but we're not changing that footprint.
Right, okay. Comments from neighbors? Renee? Main comment?
They were in your packet,
Yeah.
the emails.
Yeah, from Morris.
They were all regarding the pickleball.
Right.
But that was the only comment.
Other questions?
If I could jump in,
Jump in,
Mayor,
Yes.
real quick, I'm sorry. I know I'd spoken a little bit about this, the entrance gates on both sides of the property. It doesn't note the height of the gate, and in this zoning district, the maximum height is 6 feet. So could I just get someone to confirm that they will not exceed that maximum height?
This elevation that's shown there does have a dimension, and we revised the gates from the original design, and it is noted on both of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the old submission. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that was my question, was the gate. Just tell me about the gate.
Well, the top elevation you see is what we identified as front gates, and that, if you look on the site plan, is set back from Hidden Harbor Drive a bit, sort of around the bend, and the idea is to not have them just jump out at you, and then with sort of a simple design and again adhering to that 6-foot height. We're hoping to the 2 columns you see are repetition of existing columns at the existing wall, so they would anchor either end. Then in addition, there would be planting that would engulf the gate. So virtually all you'll see is just the gates themselves.
Are the gates solid or see-through?
Those are open. They're ornamental iron that you would see through. Now,
It didn't look it.
what is defined as the rear gate is solid. So that the whole idea is, from that vantage point, we want to make that impenetrable as far as the views inward to the property.
So that's in response to some of the concerns of neighbors to the north of the property.
Yes.
Okay.
On the east gate, your current entrance comes off Hidden
Harbor.
and it comes in probably 12 feet, something like that.
Mhm.
And then the gates will be back in there.
That is correct. They're back inside the property line. So if you kind of look at the alignment on the site plan, that first curving section
Right.
is, maintained, and that's where we want to enhance the screening to shield the neighboring property, and then also to sort of embrace the gates. And then the gates, you really would not, I don't think they'd be overly visible even
I
from
mean,
Hidden
if
Harbor.
you're driving down the road, you barely see it.
Exactly.
Right, and that's consistent with the code, which is discrete or hidden.
Right.
So that would be the requirement.
I have no other questions. I have sort of a summary of my view. If I could do that?
Yes, you may.
The Brown family, as we've all experienced in the past, have always been great stewards of their land and the town. So thank you for restoring this building. I've had the opportunity to go into it with the former owner, Tupac, I guess it was, Mrs. Tuitt. And it's a lovely house. It's an iconic building. It's one of the most unique locations, the way it sits up. So I think it's wonderful you were restoring and retaining this iconic building and not tearing it down, because we have a lot of tear down and rebuild. So thank you.
Those are my comments as well. Gulfstream is divided into neighborhood districts, and we have struggled to maintain the defined architectural integrity and space and dimensions of those districts. This is the Ocean West District, and it has truly been defined by Lemon Hill, which not only is an iconic building, but the property itself is one of the most beautiful in South Florida, certainly in Gulfstream. And your efforts to preserve that are much appreciated. Do we have any motions?
Joan, you're good at making motions.
Yeah,
you are.
right here. I think it's an incredible project, by the way. Okay, where's mine? Here. I move to approve a demolition permit to demolish some of the existing structure.
I'll second it.
Please.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Move to approve a land clearing permit to clear some of the existing vegetation from the building site.
I'll second it.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Motion to approve special exception under 70-126 to exceed the number of preferred ease lines with a total of 8 proposed.
Second it.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Motion to approve a level 3 architectural site plan review to permit addition to the existing 2-story structure resident, a rebuilt front porch at the pool house, a rear covered porch addition of the guest house, and an open air shade pavilion on the south side of the existing pool.
Second it.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Mr. Musselman, welcome to the neighborhood. Okay, let's move on then. Town manager's report. Artificial grass update.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have 2 points I'm going to make, and then I'm going to turn this over to Trey. I believe at the last meeting, I was not at, you instructed the town to reach out to various vendors of artificial grass to obtain specifications and samples of their product. We sent out queries to 5 different vendors and did not receive anything back from any one of those.
Not even the one that was
Not
here.
even Mr. Long?
No, I mean,
Or
that's the
what's his
only, that's the only
Forever
one we
Lawn.
had.
Forever Long.
No.
Because it was thrown in somebody's driveway. So that's the only one that we received any responses from. The second comment that I'll make is that the Civic Association did email to residents, basically kind of a poll and asking them, I think three questions perhaps, or no, I think that's one of these responses. But anyway, they sent out a query to residents about their thoughts on artificial grass. They did receive 7 responses. 5 of those were in favor of it in a limited form or in a limited application of it. 1 was not for it, and 1 was basically neutral as far as those responses go. So I'm going to refer back to Trey, who's going to discuss the 2 ordinances that we sent out 1 or 2 meetings ago. I can't remember. And the differences in them. And I think there's a significant difference and one that we would favor if we were to choose to do an ordinance that would approve it on a limited basis. So I'll hand it over to Trey.
Thank you, Mr. Dunham. So we did circulate the Town of Palm Beach and the Town of Ocean Ridge ordinances last month or 2 months ago. In thinking about it over the last month, and like the manager said, Renee had reached out to a number of vendors. So it got us thinking about quality and appearance. So from the aesthetic standpoint, in looking at the Ocean Ridge and the Town of Palm Beach codes, we believe that the Town of Palm Beach has a workable aesthetic component where it states, and I'll read from the ordinance, it may be installed in limited areas of rear and side yards or as a driveway accent in any yard, example to include strips of artificial turf placed between stone or concrete driveway pads. Artificial turf shall not be installed in any front yard areas except as a driveway accent or in any areas visible from the public right-of-way. So we think that's a workable framework if we were to add artificial turf as reviewed and approved by the ARPB. They could be able to manage this limited areas of rear and side yard and something that is not visible. It's also our belief that the residents would prefer not seeing it from the waterway as well. So we would add that addition. So you're not looking at even a limited area of a rear yard that's visible from across the cove. So that would be the aesthetic component that we would put into a potential ordinance. Palm Beach doesn't have sort of the quality controls in it that Ocean Ridge did. So we would look at Ocean Ridge for things such as minimum tufted weight, minimum permeability, a certain manufacturer's warranty, and then also some other things that we thought would be appropriate. A barrier device required to separate artificial turf from soil and live vegetation. We believe that would be appropriate aesthetic concern. It has certain maintenance requirements, has to be replaced under certain circumstances, and of course requires a building permit to be installed. So all of those things kind of put together, we could get some sort of a hybrid ordinance that we believe would be in conformance with kind of what we're generally hearing from the residents and what we saw from the Civic Association's response, but that would have a minimum aesthetic and visual impact on the town. Very limited areas, side and rear yard only, not visible from the street or waterway. So that is kind of where we've landed on, but we can certainly continue to try to reach out to vendors to get some additional information and perhaps study it more. But that's kind of where we are as far as our update.
After our last meeting, I contacted Curtis Roach, the president of the Civic Association, and I asked him to send out an email to the board. Not the entire Civic Association. We just didn't have time for that. And asked that we receive thoughtful responses to this issue, not just knee-jerk yes or no. And as Mr. Dunham explained, we received 7 emails, and I urge you to read them because they are thoughtful. Essentially, they track with what we talked about last meeting, which is no one is in support of visible artificial turf that is visible to the street or from the waterway. 3 of them would have allowed it in backyard as long as it's not visible. 4 would not allow it entirely in the backyard, but only partial backyard and side as well. But I was just impressed by the thoughtful responses we got. I also spoke with one of our residents who is a chemical engineer who spent his career in polymers, which is essentially what artificial turf is. And he raised two issues. Number one is whether there is any impact on the groundwater from the polymers and the petroleum-based seeding of the artificial grass. He felt, yes, it could be some, but that frankly, it would be offset by the pesticides and fertilizer that you're putting on regular grass, and he did not think that it would be much of an impact. The other issue is, especially in larger full backyard areas and with children on it, there is some concern about health risks from contact with artificial grass polymers. He told me that the city of Boston prohibits artificial grass for that reason. I don't know if that is just tree hugging overreaction to the polymers, or whether there is some legitimate basis to it. But I just throw that out there.
Scott, you know, like a knee burn or elbow burns or something on the?
No, it's contact. Just contact.
Yeah, that's what I mean, falling and just being on it in general, not even being injured.
Apparently they weren't playing on artificial turf in the 90s.
Yes.
Well, what's happened
Throw that in my head.
Another resident who has ownership interests in kennels told me that you need to be cognizant of the smell from homeowners with pets, dogs, that let them go out and leave themselves on the artificial turf. We get long periods with little rain here, and he said the odor can be significant. So if we were going to do this, we would need to address maintenance, cleanliness.
That's interesting.
Of the artificial turf. So there are more issues to this than just do I like the look or not, and that's why
And I've got one last thing to add to that, which you wouldn't normally think of, but seems kind of oxymoronic. But so you've got obviously on the residential side, which we discussed, and then you've got our three private clubs. You know, a couple of maintenance issues we even discussed here today during public comment, and there's a couple, I would say maybe 1 or 2, even though 2 are golf and 1 is not, which you think they can, you know, they're growing grass, right? It's part of what they have to do, but, you know, that may want to use this, which is another consideration, which can be done on a case by case basis since there's only 3 entities that would want it, but it's kind of arisen in a few examples, most early probably the B&T because of the oddness and the uniqueness of the elevations and whatnot in certain spots. Probably less so much in the 2 other clubs that, you know, the primary function of their budget is growing grass. But just wanted to add that and just mention that as well.
I have a couple comments. Mr. Boardman raised that issue of odor from dogs. I don't know how you police that. So maybe the right balance is you limit the amount of artificial. Because if somebody chooses, if they have a big backyard and they have 1 or 2 dogs and they just let the dogs out and they're not using sprinklers, so it just sits on top of that. And if they don't choose to pick it up, I think that's not a good thing. Now, I guess you could argue that it's on natural grass and it sits there too. So I don't know whether it's that much different, but I'm inclined to.
Probably breaks down with natural grass. I mean, it'll eventually
I
break down.
would
Probably
think so.
Sits on top.
I don't want to speak to something I don't know, but
Yeah,
I
I
think it's the
don't know.
urine that he was talking about. So I thought
Yeah.
that's what he mentioned to me.
So-
So most people, pick up after their dogs.
I'm in favor of moving forward with something. I just think that all the things not visible, clearly, there's consensus on that. And I think the quality is important. That we control some quality. And then limit, I don't know what that limit would be, but I would hate to see it. Take my backyard, it was all artificial grass. That's 80%. And I have a lot of grass relative to some. I think it's just too much, in my opinion, but that's more of a personal view. Do we
I
want to?
agree with that, actually. Just in general, I never thought of this having a huge backyard of all artificial grass. And having someone not take care of it the way they should take care of it.
And there's no way we can police the maintenance. So that's,
Yeah.
you gotta.
Except through complaints.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It would come down to complaints from neighbors, for odor.
That would be a horrible issue to address.
Yeah, well, we're gonna stop policing all this.
But if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
if I'm
it'd
not,
just be horrible.
if I'm not mistaken, and I see the attorney's probably looking at it now, I think odor is under our nuisances.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
but then
so-
how do you,
Well,
how do you,
I know.
what is there gonna be a range of this odor, this odor, that
That's
odor?
kind of
Well,
like,
I'm just saying,
that's kind of like enforcing
We
the
can have
lighting
decibels.
issue. How bright is too
Yeah.
bright?
Don't you think the only real issue is how much?
Yes, that is the
Percent.
consensus that I sense from both the commission and
In your comments.
I probably spent as much time talking to people and thinking about this topic as about anything else we've done. I don't know why, but it's just really interesting. And that's the sense I get, is that you can't see it. That's number one. Can't overdo it. That seems to be number two. So limited amounts of it, where it's really necessary and to be reviewed by the ARPB for approval. So I think Mr. Nazzaro's suggestion of combining those two ordinances, Palm Beaches, which leaves a lot of discretion to the town, and Ocean Ridges, which had a number of requirements as to quality and maintenance and that sort of thing.
And also, when we have our pre-app meetings, we don't necessarily point out that artificial grass is prohibited because it's in the code, but we will now. Because not a very small percentage. In fact, I don't even remember anybody coming in with an application that already has artificial grass in their plans, right?
Correct.
But we do know, as you told me from the other night, that there are people that have it. We don't even know that they have it. And I just learned of a new example that did not have artificial grass in their plans that perhaps now does. And the architect was one that's very familiar to the town, and we all know him. And so I can conveniently call him and say, how did this happen? But anyway,
So it's not visible, so.
no, well, it's not.
I think it's important to do quality too. I really do. Somehow put the quality in or have some parameters. I don't know the parameters, but.
I was last week, I was on vacation in Gasparilla Island. I was telling Trey and Greg this. We took a boat to Yosepa Island, which was absolutely devastated by the storm. Absolutely. You think you're in Dresden after World War II. But there was one property there that had this beautiful grass. And it was artificial. We looked at it, it was artificial. But the way they had done it, it was in limited areas and they border it. You never want to have it next to natural grass. They did it in a really well-designed and high-quality way to present that grass.
Scott, can we, I think we should keep it moving. Can we have Trey draft a blend of
I
what he
agree with
spoke
that.
to today so we can read it and, edit it a little bit? I think it was, what Trey did was a good thing. And when we read those from a couple months ago, there were good points in both of them, but I didn't like either one of it by itself. Okay.
Now let's try to get it totally approved where people can start doing it in the summer. Right? I mean, let's just.
Sure, if
keep it
they
going.
want to.
Just how many readings do you have of that?
2.
Two.
Yeah, two. And that was going to be our recommendation today, is that we put
Okay.
together
Yeah.
a sample ordinance and bring it to you next time.
Good. Very good.
All right, Mr.
Okay.
Nazaro, we'll move forward with that.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dunham, notice requirements.
Right. So as you know, our notice requirements in terms of the distance that we send out notices is set forth in our code book. And I believe we've gotten some, for a recent application, we got some residents that were concerned because they didn't get notices. And in going back and looking at it, it's because the notices, their resident didn't fall within the area that was required to be noticed. Now, and
I got it. I was in the one.
It's darker.
And so, as right now, as the staff report says here, that level 2 and level 3 site plan, architectural site plan review require neighbor property owners within simply 25 feet to be noticed. Well, that doesn't go very far. And then the only other one pertains to a variance, which then requires 300 feet. So you all have the drawing that Mr. Nazaro has passed out to all of you. And you can see in the staff report, we made an initial recommendation that an expanded notice of 300 feet for the level 2 and level 3 applications and 600 feet for variances. But then we got to looking at it again, and we just, our recommendation, we've kind of changed our mind, is that we just make it a notice of 600 feet for all applications.
That a burden?
600 feet's like the whole town.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I think that.
Yeah, but there's a reason
Maybe 400 feet?
The only impact, the real impact of these notices is the core and Plaza Soleil.
Right.
And the 200 feet, 300 feet, whatever initially was being discussed, really isn't enough, in my opinion. If you look at this drawing, which is of the core, take the last home that we studied, which we spent so much time on Polo. Big home always raises questions by neighbors. Because it's on Polo, it impacts the entire core. People drive by it, whether they live within 25 feet or 300 feet or not. So I think that's the argument for, if you're going to make the variance 600 feet, why not just make every notice 600 feet? It's not a burden on the applicant because they go to I believe it's to the county.
Yeah, your radius.
And they just indicate the radius. And the information is printed out, you put it with labels, and you just mail out the notice. It's really easy. But I think this will avoid some of the criticism we've received, which is, I didn't know that this house was going in, or I didn't know this renovation was being done, and I should have been apprised of.
But I mean, this is reaction. It's not a conclusion. So I'm up in Lakeview. On the corner of Lakeview and Polo. And then I'm going to do something there. And then the party that lives at the end of Middle Road is going to comment. I mean, their comment's more going to be about the core district as opposed to how it impacts.
That's right.
Their personal experience. So, I mean, if that's the intention, that's fine, but it's very different from what we have now.
That's right. It is. And we had initially discussed neighborhood districts. Notify everybody in the district that's impacted by that architectural design. That seemed difficult to us because how do you go to the county and say, okay, our district, you have to define that.
Well, then you're back to 2 meetings ago. Everything's on the website. The last 6 meetings, everything's on the website. You know, do you have to get a card every time something's happening?
Well, no, this is only,
Well, that's,
items that are a new home or a significant over 50% renovation that really is going to matter. But we have faced this criticism on a number of homes over the last couple of years. And because this does not impose any real burden on the applicant, I can't really see a reason not to do it. I could be wrong. Often
No, Scott, you can clearly see that 200 feet only covers like 2 houses on either side.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
not
doesn't
far.
work. 400 is
There's a
only
lot
like
there.
4 or 5 on each side. So I think it needs to be at least 400, and maybe your 600 is, I think, is that what you're thinking? 600 would be better? or-
Well, they're recommending 600 for a variance.
Okay.
Why? Because variances impact more than just the homes next door. Well, now we're reaching a stage where the architectural designs, the massing is impacting the core and Plaza Soleil. So,
Well, I think even between the massing and whatever, it's the elevation right now that's going to be a big deal. Because elevations are coming up and walls next to the neighbors. I mean, how we're going to address that. So I think elevation is a huge deal because filling in of some of these lots that are redeveloped. So I mean, at first I didn't agree with this, but because
That's a
going
good
forward, I think it's really relevant for
Yeah.
seawalls, for street and everything because of the elevations.
I'm okay with doing it. If it doesn't work, we always can change it.
I mean, how do you feel about it, the staff?
I mean, Renee's the one that in terms of the burden.
Is it a large burden?
Yesterday, it took me probably an hour and a half to send out notices because one of the applicants shot themselves in the foot, I guess I should say. And
It was a last minute thing.
It was. They did the 25 feet and one of it happened to be a condo. Well, our code says you only have to send one to a condo, but they had printed out everybody in the condo.
Oh, good.
So everybody's going to get it. So there was almost 100 letters that had to go out yesterday. So that took a while because you got to fold them, you got to stuff them, they gave me lickable ones.
Which really, but realistically, even if we went,
change the ordinance,
even-
self-adhesive envelope.
Yeah, I am definitely going to do that after yesterday.
but just to address that, even if we did go to 600 for all applications, you're not going to get 100 pieces of mail because you're not required in our code to hit everyone in the multifamily. And even on this, I mean, you're looking at 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, it's a very limited number when compared to what Renee's dealing with. That is really the only burden on staff is the cost of paper and putting it in an envelope. The county prints out the envelopes
Postage.
or prints out the,
So do they do
Prints out
the
the
whole letter or do you all
No,
do the whole
we do
letter?
the letter.
You do it. so
Yeah, they
it's-
just have to provide us with stamped
Envelope.
and
Envelopes
labeled.
and the labels.
Labels.
Yeah.
Oh, they provide you with the labels
Yes.
too?
And a copy of the radius map.
Yes,
Okay, and that's on a computer or how do they do
they get it
that?
from.
Property appraiser does it. You file a form
Oh, okay.
and mark it with the address, and then they run it in the software.
The
You pick it up a
letters
few
are
days later.
pretty much cookie cutter. We just had
Is
to
it?
change the
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, definitely cookie cutter.
so before we had the 25-foot radius, but now with, I don't know if it's technology, if it's easier for the county to do it, but there's no real cost except for perhaps, postage and labels. I mean, $20 or something like that for the applicant, and then staff time. I mean, it's really negligible versus maybe originally when we adopted 25 feet, maybe it'd be more comprehensive in how that was obtained, in the 70s or 80s. But just for now, there really is no additional burden. It's just whether or not we think that, what the radius should be for notice of development applications.
Then I don't see a downside to 600. I mean.
That was my point. I think
Yeah.
we're all in agreement. It needs to be more than
25.
at least
Sure.
400 feet.
Yeah.
I mean,
At least
Yeah.
400.
a good example is 3,400 Polo. How many notices did we send out for that one? Like
I'd
3 or
have to look,
4?
it was like maybe 6 at the most.
Yeah. And just think of the significance of that house, and 6 people got notice of it.
Maybe 400 feet.
Okay.
400?
So 600 and 600.
Well, that was since it's already going to be 600 for variance, which I
Yeah.
think is really, no one could argue with that. Why not just make it consistent? But
Yeah, no.
if you want to start with 400 or 500, whatever.
No, let's make it the same.
Make it 600.
Make it the
Yeah.
same and let's see how it goes. As
Yeah.
Paul says, we can always change it. Okay.
All right, so we'll have 600 for variances
go.
in. All right, thank you.
All right. Restriping in roads in Plaza Soleil, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, so since the work is being done in Place Soleil already, especially at the entryway where all of the striping is going to have to be new striping, we're going to take advantage of that and just do restriping all over Place Soleil. If you recall, we did it here in the core area. There's the amount of striping we had to do in the core area was a larger impact because we have more stop signs. There's not that many stop signs in Place Soleil, which do require stop bars. But wherever there's a need, we're going to do restriping. It's become faded over there, so we'd like to take advantage of doing it at the same time that we're doing the other work.
And the CIP has the road work being done in the first phase here. So it's going to be at least 2 years
right.
for Plaza Soleil. So it makes sense to improve the striping over there until we can get to the road work there. All in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. All right. Finally, grant writing.
Yes. Okay. So as you know, the engineers are almost at 100% on their design phase for our work beginning this fall. I've been at a league meeting and stayed after for a meeting afterwards and had several cities discuss their opportunities and successes in getting state, county, state, or federal grants in construction projects. And I got the idea, and I think what they were trying to say is that there's more money available for all cities. The cities that might have not previously met the qualifications to, income type qualifications to get grant money. And so I'm going to be meeting with 2 firms, an engineering firm that also has grant writing services, and then another firm that that exclusively writes grants for towns and cities. Both of them have portfolios that include many towns and cities in Palm Beach County and have been successful in getting grants for towns that you might not expect to be able to qualify for. So what I'm doing is I'm just passing it on that I'm going to be meeting with a couple of those next week. I'd really like to try, I'm sure that it's on a as needed hourly cost. I'm not sure, that's the purpose of my meetings. But I think it's necessary to kind of get started on this, choose somebody that we like and get started. I'd like to be able to engage somebody. I mean, I can spend up to $15,000 without your approval. Again, I don't know how much, and I'm sure the cost of a grant application is going to be much more than that because they provide services, including just writing the grant, managing it, preparing payments, and other service, managing the whole length of the grant. So I guess what I'm saying is I'd like the opportunity to be able to engage one of these firms if if I believe it's the right time and we're ready to do that, based on my conversations with them before the next meeting. And then if there is a formal agreement that's more than $15,000 or anticipated more than $15,000, come back to you for formal approval.
Consensus?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'd like free money, so
Yeah,
let's go.
so let's,
Is it Biden's infrastructure or is it everything, every state, everything that's out there?
That's everything that's out
Okay.
there. I mean, I talked to one on the phone and he said there's all kinds of money out there, you know, federal, state, and even Palm Beach County. And so that's where I'd like to start. To find
Well,
out.
we're in a position now where we have every single project going on that any other municipality has going on. It's just maybe a few less zeros.
Right.
Except for bridge.
Yeah, except for bridge. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and both of these firms that I'm going to be talking to do infrastructure capital improvements grants.
No, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next ARPB meeting will be April 27th at 8:30 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Finance report, both financial and water reports, Mr. Dunham.
Yes, the water report, there's nothing unusual about that report. The people have been watering their lawns. It's been dry, but also your balance sheet represents 50% of our budget, and I'm glad to report that after Commissioner Lyons, myself, and Lolita interviewed some banks and finagled some interest rates, that our monthly interest rate for our principal,
It's 48,000.
yes.
For the
I wasn't
month.
going to mention the amount, but I was going to say
Why
it's
not?
6 times higher than what we would have earned had we not made the visit. So,
Our expenses are going up, so any source of revenue is a wonderful thing.
right.
Can I ask one quick question on the financial statement?
Yes, sir.
And I should know the answer, but I just thought remember on page 6, there's something called federal grants. And we have in our budget 400,000. Do you remember what that was going to be for?
Yes, no, that is a result of the COVID.
Well, we're going to get that.
Yes. Oh, yes.
When do we get it? Do you know?
Well,
We're going to get it sometime.
yes, we're going to get it. I thought we were going to get 200,000 of it last year and then 200,000 of it this year, but we are definitely,
Okay, good.
Gulfstream is going to be getting $400,000 of COVID relief money.
That seems like an inordinate delay. I mean, the plan originally was for fairly prompt payment of COVID
Yeah,
relief funds.
again, Rebecca's gone, so I'll have to
Fine.
follow up on.
Okay.
But that's a big number.
I think,
Yeah, it's a big number.
actually, I
I'd like
think,
to get that.
I think we may have already gotten it. I mean, because we had $200,000 of it last year. The way we budgeted, we had budgeted 200,000 in our current budget. They were going to budget 200,000 in this next budget. And Lolita's not in here, so.
Okay, well, whatever, you'll look
And
into it.
what we're gonna do with that, and it's eligible, is put that towards our infrastructure.
Right.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Chief Jones, please report.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. If you would, please accept the report that's been provided. You should have a copy of it. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it. In addition to that report, I would like to let you know that we have hired a police officer in March that is starting the final phase of FTO as of today. And we are also interviewing 2 additional candidates this afternoon.
Excellent.
What's the name of the officer that we just hired?
Mr. Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. Yeah, he was assisting us at the, on a rainy day across to the Goodman's home.
He's very professional.
And he's very good.
Yes, sir.
Like him very much.
Comes to us with a lot of experience, very good officer, good demeanor and such. So we're happy to have him.
Thank you very much. Let's move on then to items for commission action, massing in the core district. Mr. Nazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've been kicking this around just since time immemorial, really. Trying to look for some sort of a solution. And I know Commissioner Lyons had mentioned in the past, we should really seek some sort of outside assistance, perhaps contractual. We also talked to the ARPB about maybe having them look into the issue and analyze it as well. Greg and I were having a conversation with someone recently, and they suggested we reach out to Paul Castro, who is a recently retired zoning administrator who spent 27 years with the town of Palm Beach. So we reached out to him to see if he would want to perhaps do some consulting work regarding the issue of massing. And he asked some extremely knowledgeable questions about, well, what's your FAR? Oh, well, we use cubic content, but they're going away from that in Palm Beach. They really want to go back to FAR. We've proposed certain numbers, but I mean, just you could tell that he knew exactly what we're dealing with, and perhaps would have some proposed solutions for that. So we don't have. He has recently retired. So he was on vacation and doing what retired people do, but he was interested in having a meeting with us and perhaps coming on in a consulting role and making some recommendations. So Greg and I are going to meet with him prior to our next meeting and perhaps bring an agreement for consulting services with him. In the meantime, as the town manager mentioned, we can always enter into an agreement for a limited amount. I wouldn't think that our consulting services would exceed $15,000, what the manager's threshold is, but we just wanted to update you on where we are with that. And I think that, I'm optimistic based on our conversation. This is a man who was the zoning administrator in the town of Palm Beach and spent, 27 years with the town. So he knows the issues and how to address them. So given that, again, cautiously optimistic, but I think that, again, consistent with what has been said on the dais about let's bring in some outside help. Staff is certainly extremely knowledgeable. And I was always hesitant because the Gulfstream code is just so specific and it is so unique that to bring any outside consultant up to speed on it may be a little bit more difficult. But again, the questions and the comments made by Mr. Castro made me feel like that would be a very short up to speed term, and then he would kind of be able to hit the ground running with some recommendations and conversations.
So I have one quick thought on that. Experience with consultants that we all have. I think it's really necessary that we sort of a scope of work or definition of what it is that we're going to ask them to do, and you could be proactively involved. I think that's because otherwise this thing can just wander on. We don't want them to go through every page of the code either.
No, I'll be involved with it.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's reached the stage. We've addressed this issue so many times over so many years, and we've tinkered with the code. But and I think you brought it up, Paul, which was we really should consider bringing in an expert to assist us, someone with knowledge in a similar situation. And Palm Beach has wrestled with this same mansionization problem that communities like ours have experienced. So I think we take the first step, speak to him, see what the scope of his work would be, the cost, and go from there.
Right.
And if it's any comfort to you, I've known Mr. Castro for 25 years. I've broken bread and watched football games at his house. His wife worked for me in Palm Beach Gardens. So I can trust that he's not going to.
Okay. All right, very good. So we'll move forward with that. Let's move on then to level 2 and 3 submissions for the ARPB and the commission. Mr. Dunham.
Yeah, these, I'm sorry, I put my agenda up.
You can kick that to me, Mr. Manager. I'm used to being the designated hitter after last month, so I can jump in.
Oh, okay, Mr. Nazaro.
Yeah. So we had a very, I would like to say, successful workshop with the ARPB in discussing just sort of a review of our code. And part of that came up is sometimes you're reviewing an application and things come up at the meeting that you wish would have been part of those materials that were submitted. The clerk is responsible for making sure application packages are complete, And currently our code is, while it's not silent, it is essentially, it says that the planning and building administrator and the ARPB determine what needs to be submitted as part of a sufficient application. And at this point, it doesn't really outline, are we talking about elevations? Do we want, how comprehensive and thorough is the landscape plan? Is it just, a survey with little dots on it showing where the trees are going to go? Or do we really want, what's the planting height? What is the actual final look going to be? What is there existing at this time? And we were talking about the Manalapan code that does lay out very specific. You have 3 options: a 3-dimensional scale model of the entire lot or lot of record that depicts all proposed colors, materials, textures, landscaping, lot grade improvements, structures, accessory structures, or a detailed color views and a color render perspective, one that views all proposed. So it's very comprehensive in exactly what they want for submission for the board to review. And we have that to some extent, but a lot of the times we've talked about, well, would a 3D rendering would be better? What exactly do we want as part of the materials that we review? So I would just want to ask that we recommend that the ARPB study that issue, see what they want as part of a complete application package, and either include that in an ordinance or resolution, so we have some sort of guidance at a staff level in what the board feels is acceptable for their review. I think that using the ARPB as a recommending authority to tell you what they want to do will also get them involved in, especially because we have a few new members. What am I looking at when I receive an application? What do I really want to see? What are the codes that I'm going to be looking at? So given that we just had a workshop, I feel like that would be helpful in reinforcing their roles and responsibilities and get everyone on the same page. Staff would obviously be intimately involved in that and saying, this is what we believe that should be at least bare minimum. This is what we've seen helpful in the past, because staff has been doing this longer than some of the newer ARPB members. So I just ask that we have a motion to refer that for a recommendation from the ARPB.
Yeah, this kind of came up. There were a couple homes. 3400 Polo was one where, with the aerial shot, it really helped us evaluate what is a very large home, but how it was situated on that lot. We have a streetscape requirement. How does it compare to the homes next to it? But I thought that aerial shot was really important. There was a home on A1S, a spec home that was built, and we sent it back several times. It was just a flat 2-dimensional presentation, and finally they came in. The architect came in with 3D presentations, and we could then see the gradations of the home, how it's set back, how there were not just flat massing, but more nuance to the design. So I thought assisted the applicant in getting his application through.
I agree.
And just makes it a more informed process for the ARPB and the commission. So anyone?
I mean, is it becoming more prevalent? I'm seeing now on these major applications for new construction, we're seeing probably what, now 80%? Because back in my day, the old days in this, like the architects were like, well, we have SketchUp, like which was like through Google, like in 2008. I mean, I'm not an architect. I'm assuming that, no matter generationally where you are in your profession, that it's becoming more of the norm. You enter in the data based on the measurements. I don't even know what the software is anymore. And then it comes out. You had a 3D today, just kind of showing the old and the new. It wasn't, as detailed as we've seen before, but we got it with the flat. I mean, I think you should have A, B, C, D, E, F. And I think we're getting it. The problem is every now and then you have a house that's a difficult application and you don't have it. And then, we talked last year a couple times, and I think the mayor was on vacation. We felt like we were designing the house at the commission level.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get mad, but I got perturbed a couple times, and it was no one's fault up and down. It's just, we have a strict code and things are complicated. But so yeah, I would support So I don't know if we need to look into that or just say, if you're gonna build a house that costs X dollars with this professional, you need to figure out a way to have some sort of 3D rendering, especially for a totally new build.
I
Or a big
agree.
addition.
I don't know how we perform our duties without that, frankly. When you talk about color or texture, you bring them all together to have a visual, because at the end of the day, that's what you're gonna be looking at. And I'd like to have a sense, the
That's
pool.
a perfect example. right
I mean,
there.
I sort of get what it's gonna look
Doesn't
like,
really
but
tell you
I mean,
anything.
it doesn't tell you much. I mean, the whole application up, but I think we do.
Of course, that's part of your massing.
Right.
Your massing look, which is what we're about to spend a little money on trying to redo, and that will help aid in that, which is a function of new construction now. So I think that probably answers the question.
The 3D will help with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The whole perspective of like 3400,
Yeah.
the massing of it, because some of it was set back. So if you have more of a 3D presentation, I mean, it shouldn't be that complicated. I don't think in
I don't think
today's
it is
world.
now. No.
No, I think most architects have that ability.
I mean, I would think more the
I mean, the equipment is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you pay the fee and have a subcontractor or vendor do it.
Yeah, and I've just found that not only does it help us, but it actually helps the applicant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it expedites the process.
Right.
There's less questions. And it forces actually to focus on the real issues.
So there was one benefit of sending it to the ARPB, which was to educate the new members. But that shouldn't trump the issue here. So if you would rather, I think we're all in agreement, we want 3D presentations. We could either make that decision now or let the.
Would that be only, would that be only for like a level 3?
Yeah, for new homes.
We
or
would-
Substantial.
Right, we would
Or
probably
substantial.
have a
Yeah.
different, right, there'd be a different
Yeah.
level
They
for
have them on one side.
two
And that's what I would like. So if you
I mean,
want.
a good example is Lemon Hill. I mean, it's not a totally new home, but it's
It's substantial.
substantial. So,
But what point are you going to call substantial? I mean, what percent?
So it's
Level 3.
50%.
Level 3.
50% is the difference
Okay.
between 2 and 3.
So we would not require it on level 2s.
That would be up to whatever the commission or, now, if we do refer it to the ARPB, we're going to bring it before you for review and approval. I mean, you can tinker with it at that stage as well. Now, if you want us to start asking for something right away, you can certainly direct us to do that for all level 3 applications today, because that's within your authority under the code. So.
Yeah, I don't have a mental picture on Friday this week of a level 2 that would necessitate a 3D.
Why don't we
Right.
move forward with level 3
Yeah.
requirement of 3-dimensional and the aerial view? I feel very strongly about it.
Which covers the rhythm of the street.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
The aerial shot.
Oh,
not just the
absolutely.
streetscape.
I agree with that.
But also direct the ARPB to consider anything else that they might feel should be
When-
added to that, and they can send that recommendation up to us if there is anything.
I just have one question on the level 3, this 3D presentation. I mean, like, I hate to go back to elevation, but is it going to show elevation too, or just the house itself?
I think we would still require all the elevations in
Okay.
addition, a 3D.
Because I just think that's so important going forward,
Right.
elevations.
Agreed.
I hate to be,
Well, a lot of the
repetitive
times,
here,
the elevations will show us eave and roof heights. So, and percentages of glass. So we do need to see that side view, just for our, sort of numerical number review.
You gotta have
And then for the
flat
aesthetic.
sheet, of course.
And Michael Green had brought that up at the ARPB workshop, that we should start asking for 3D elevation.
yeah,
And
because
personally, I think we should go ahead and
Just
do
move
this today.
forward.
Yeah,
Right.
because as the person looking at it first,
Yeah.
I like the 3D
I think we're
myself.
in agreement. That's what
Yeah.
we
Yes,
want.
one last question. Streetscape.
So I would, as staff has looked at these, we believe that a streetscape width, and I think we used to do it previously with the houses on either side at their actual level. So if you have to build it up 4 feet and then you're going to maximum eve height, you see what that exactly looks like on the street. So that would be what we would recommend the ARPB include in those level 3, especially for new houses that are, are being built up.
Yes.
You don't need a motion for this. Direction is sufficient.
I think that we have a consensus based on, what the mayor said and, listening to Renee, we can start processing our level 3s with that requirement and then, talk to the ARPB about what they would like moving forward.
Very good.
Mayor, I'm going to quickly jump in. On 3,500, there was some comments about landscaping, removing some things, that the wooden deck. Do I have the right address?
3,400.
3,400,
yeah,
I have
Polo.
a feeling you're looking at me. 3,400. My real point here is to acknowledge and thank Renee because she's right on top of it. They submitted some new plans. They didn't make the changes we asked. And you were a very good enforcer. So thank you.
And does it with a smile.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the final item, which is voting delegates and alternates to the League of Cities.
We do this every year and typically I become the voting delegate and you guys become the alternates.
Congratulations.
Sounds good to me.
We need a motion.
We need a motion for that, don't we?
I think so.
Motion to approve Town Manager Greg Dunham as the voting delegate for Palm Beach County League of Cities and the commissioners as alternates to alternate delegates.
Second.
Ms. Bezak?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Any other comments? The good of the order. If not, thank you for coming. Meeting is adjourned.
This Tui didn't donate a bird sanctuary, did she?
No. Harold.